Welcome to the class. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rūpa Kada Mahyam Dadati Saputantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudhapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rūpam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatpadeshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gaurtushe Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Welcome everyone. We're studying Nectar of Devotion. We'll discuss chapter 4 today. Also, if time permits, chapter 5. So in chapter 4, Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī only gives us evidences from various different locations in different scriptures that how practice of devotional service surpasses the benefits, the happiness of liberation. Which means a pure devotee of Krishna is not interested in liberation. However, a pure devotee of Krishna is also not devoid of the happiness of liberation. In fact, the happiness that a pure devotee of Krishna experiences is more than that of the happiness of liberation. So the whole chapter is basically to highlight this subject matter. Chapter number 4. There are various references given by him just to highlight this point. Now, what are the different kinds of liberations and all that? We have discussed that many times before. So Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī is only going to give us now different evidences, different verses. We'll read through. We'll just read through this chapter. Devotional service surpasses all liberation. How much a devotee is seriously attached to the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood from the statement of Maharaj Prithu, Adi Raj, which is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 20th chapter, verse 24. He prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, my dear Lord, if after taking liberation I have no chance of hearing the glories of your Lordship, glories chanted by pure devotees from the core of their hearts, in praise of your lotus feet, and if I have no chance for this honey of transcendental bliss, then I shall never ask for liberation, or this so-called spiritual emancipation. I shall simply always pray unto your Lordship that you may give me millions of tongues and millions of ears so that I can constantly chant and hear of your transcendental glories. Next paragraphs. Please someone read. Yes, Bhagavati Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam to you. A similar statement is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, 14th chapter, verse 44. Sukadev Goswami addressed Parikshit Maharaj there and says, the great soul, King Bharata, was so much attached to the service of the lotus feet of Krishna that he very easily gave up his lordship over the earthly planet and his affection for his children, society, friends, royal opulence, and beautiful wife.
Mataji, you had to read from this paragraph, right? The impersonalist desire.
Okay. The impersonalists desire to merge into the existence of the Supreme, but without keeping their individuality, they have no chance of hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. Because they have no idea of the transcendental form of the Supreme Lord, there is no chance of their chanting and hearing of his transcendental activities. In other words, unless one is ready beyond liberation, one cannot relish the transcendental glories of the Lord, nor can one understand the transcendental form of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, next paragraph. Sujata Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. A similar statement is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 14th chapter, verse 44. Shukadev Goswami addresses Parikshit Maharaj there and says, the great soul, King Bharata, was so much attached to the service of the lotus feet of Krishna that he very easily gave up his lordship over the earthly planet and his affection for his children, society, friends, royal opulence, and beautiful wife. He was so very lucky that the goddess of fortune was pleased to offer him all kinds of material concessions, but he never accepted any of these material opulences. Sukadev Goswami praises this behavior of King Bharata very highly. He says, any person whose heart is attracted by the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Madhusudana, does not care even for that liberation which is aspired to by many great sages. What to speak of material opulences? Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Next paragraph. Victor Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. In the Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 11th chapter, verse 25, there is a similar statement by Vritasura, who addresses the Lord as follows. My dear Lord, by leaving your transcendental service, I may be promoted to the planet called Dhruvaloka, the pole star, or I may gain lordship over all the planetary systems of the universe. But I do not aspire to this, nor do I wish the mystic perfections of yoga practice, nor do I aspire to spiritual emancipation. All I wish for, my Lord, is your association and transcendental service eternally. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you. Rashmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam. This statement is confirmed by Lord Shiva in Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, 17th chapter, verse 28, wherein Lord Shiva addresses Sati thus, my dear Sati, persons who are devoted to Narayana, Krishna, are not afraid of anything. If they are elevated to the higher planetary system, or if they get liberation from material contamination, or if they are pushed down to the hellish condition of life, or in fact, in any situation, whatever, they are not afraid of anything, simply because they have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Narayana. For them, any position in the material world is as good as another.
Thank you. Yes, there is a similar statement by Indra, the king of heaven, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 18th chapter, verse 74. The Indra addresses Mother Deity in this manner, my dear mother, persons who have given up all kinds of desire and are simply engaged in devotional service to the Lord know what is actually their self-interest. Such persons are actually serving their self-interests and are considered first-class experts in the matter of advancing to the perfectional stage of the life. Yes, Manish Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam. In the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, 6th chapter, verse 25, Maharaja Prahlad says, my dear friends born into atheist families, if you can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then there is nothing more rare in this world. In other words, if the Supreme Lord Krishna is pleased with you, then any desire you may have within the core of your heart can be fulfilled without any doubt. As such, what is the use of elevating yourself by the results of fruitive activities, which are automatically achieved in all events by the modes of material nature? And what is the use for you of spiritual uh, emancipation of or liberation from material bondage? If you are always engaged in chanting the glories of Supreme Lord and always relishing the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord, then there is no necessity for any. Could you please scroll, Prabhuji? Of any of these. By this statement of Prahlad Maharaj, it is clearly understood that one who takes pleasure of chanting and hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord has already surpassed all kinds of material benedictions, including the results of pious fruitive activities, sacrifices, and even liberation from material bondage. Hare Krishna.
Next paragraph. Madhumati Mataji.
Similarly, in the same 7th canto, 8th chapter, verse 42, when the demigods are offering prayers to Lord Narasimha, Indra, the king of heaven, says, O Supreme One, these demons talk of our share of participation in the performances of ritual sacrifices, but simply by your appearance as Lord Narasimha, you have saved us from terrible fears. Actually, our shares in the sacrificial performances are due to you only, because you are the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices. You are the super soul of every living entity, and therefore you are the actual owner of everything. Long were our hearts always filled with fear of this demon, Hiranyakashipu. But you are so kind towards us that by killing him, you have removed that fear from within our hearts and have given us the chance to place your lordship within our hearts again. For persons who are engaged in the transcendental loving service of your lordship, all the opulences which were taken away from us by the demons are counted as nothing. Devotees do not care, even after liberation, what to speak of these material opulences. Actually, we are not enjoyer of the fruits of sacrifices. Our only duty is to always be engaged in your service, for you are the enjoyer of everything. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Next, Jagadharini Vishakha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The purport of this statement by Indra is that beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant and no living entities are meant for enjoying the material opulences. They are simply meant for offering everything to the supreme proprietor, the personality of Godhead. By doing so, they automatically enjoy the benefit. The example can be cited again of the different parts of the body, collecting foodstuffs and cooking them so that ultimately a meal may be offered to the stomach. After it has gone to the stomach, all the parts of the body equally enjoy the benefit of the meal. So, similarly, everyone's duty is to satisfy the Supreme Lord, and then automatically everyone will become satisfied.
Please read the next paragraph also.
Okay. A similar verse is found in the 8th canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 20. Gajendra says there, My dear Lord, I have no experience of the transcendental bliss derived from your devotional service. So, therefore, I have asked from you some favor. But I know that persons who are pure devotees and have, by serving the lotus feet of great souls, become freed from all material desires are always merged in the ocean of transcendental bliss, and as such, are always satisfied simply by glorifying your auspicious characteristics. For them, there is nothing else to aspire to or pray for.
Thank you. Next paragraph. Yes, Rashmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. In the 9th canto of Bhagavatam, 4th chapter, verse 67, The Lord of Vaikuntha replies to Durvasa Muni thus, my pure devotees are always satisfied being engaged in devotional service, and therefore they do not aspire even after the 5 liberated stages, which are to 1. To be one with me, 2. To achieve residence in my planet, 3. To have my opulence, 4. To possess bodily features similar to mine, and 5. To gain personal association with me. So when they are not interested even this liberated position, you can know how little they care for material opulences or material liberations.
Yeah, read the next out.
There is similar prayer by the Nagapatnis, wives of the Kaliya serpent, in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 16th chapter, verse 37. The Nagapatnis say there, Dear Lord, the dust of your lotus feet is very wonderful. Any person who is fortunate enough to achieve this dust does not care for heavenly planets, lordship over all the planetary system, the mystic perfection of yoga, or even liberation from material existence. In other words, anyone who adores the dust of your lotus feet does not care a fig for all other perfectional stages.
Thank you. Sudhir Prabhu.
There is a similar statement in the 10th canto, 87th chapter, verse 21, wherein the Shrutis, the Vedas personified, pray to the Lord as follows. Dear Lord, it is very difficult to understand spiritual knowledge. Your appearance here, just as you are, is to explain to us this most difficult subject of knowledge of the spirit. As such, your devotees who have left their domestic comforts to associate with the liberated acharyas, teachers, are now fully merged in devotional service of your lordship, and thus they do not care for any so-called liberation.
Read further.
In explaining this verse, it should be noted that spiritual knowledge means understanding the self and the supersoul or superself. This individual soul and the supersoul are qualitatively one, and therefore both of them are known as Brahman or spirit. But knowledge of Brahman is very difficult to understand. There are so many philosophers engaged in the matter of understanding the soul, but they are unable to make any tangible advancement. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that out of many millions of persons, only one may try to understand what is spiritual knowledge. And out of many such persons who are trying to understand, only one or a few may know what is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse says that spiritual knowledge is very difficult to achieve. And so in order to make it more easily attainable, the Supreme Lord himself comes in his original form as Sri Krishna and gives his instruction directly to an associate like Arjuna, just so that the people in general may take advantage of this spiritual knowledge. This verse also explains that liberation means having completely given up all the material comforts of life. Those who are impersonalists are satisfied by simply being liberated from material circumstances, but those who are devotees can automatically give up material life and also enjoy the transcendental bliss of hearing and chanting the wonderful activities of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next paragraph. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 28th chapter, verse 34, Lord Krishna says to Uddhava, My dear Uddhava, the devotees who have completely taken shelter of my service are so steadfast in devotional service that they have no other desire. Even if they are offered the 4 kinds of spiritual opulences, they will refuse to accept them. So what to speak of their desiring anything within the material world? Similarly, Lord Krishna says in another passage of the Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 14th chapter, verse 14, My dear Uddhava, a person whose consciousness is completely absorbed in my thought and activities does not aspire even to occupy the post of Brahma or the post of Indra or the post of lordship over the planets, or the 8 kinds of mystic perfections, or even liberation itself. In the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th chapter, verse 6, Lord Shiva says to Devi, "My dear Devi, this great Brahmana sage, Markandeya, has attained unflinching faith and devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, she does not aspire after any benedictions, including liberation from the material world. The 5th kind of liberation, merging with the Supreme, is not considered an opulence in spiritual variegated existence." Next paragraph. Victor Prabhu.
Similarly, there is a statement in Padma Purana describing the ritualistic function during the month of Kartik, October to November. During this month, in Vrindavan, it is the recreative principle to pray daily to Lord Krishna in his Damodara form. The Damodara form refers to Krishna in his childhood, when he was tied up with rope by his mother Yashoda. Dama means ropes, and Udara means the abdomen. So Mother Yashoda, being very disturbed by naughty Krishna, bound him round the abdomen with a rope, and thus Krishna is named Damodara. During the month of Kartik, Damodara is prayed to as follows: My dear Lord, you are the Lord of all, the giver of all benedictions. There are many demigods, like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, who sometimes offer benedictions to their respective devotees. For example, Ravana was blessed with many benedictions by Lord Shiva, and Hiranyakashipu was blessed by Lord Brahma. But even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma depend upon the benedictions of Lord Krishna, and therefore Krishna is addressed as the Lord of all benefactors. As such, Lord Krishna can offer his devotees anything they want, but still, the devotees' prayer continues. I do not ask for liberation or any material facility up to the point of liberation. What I want as your favor is that I may always think of your form, in which I see you now, as Damodara. You are so beautiful and attractive that my mind does not want anything besides this wonderful form. In this same prayer, there is another passage in which it is said, My dear Lord Damodara, once when you were playing as a naughty boy in the house of Nand Maharaj, you broke the box containing yogurt, and because of that, Mother Yashoda considered you an offender and tied you with rope to the household branding mortar. At that time, you delivered 2 sons of Kuvera, Nalkovar and Manigriva, who were staying there as 2 Arjuna trees in the yard of Nand Maharaj. My only request is that by your merciful pastimes, you may similarly deliver me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next paragraph. Sujata Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The story behind this verse is that the 2 sons of Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, were puffed up on account of the opulence of their father. And so once on a heavenly planet, they were enjoying themselves in a lake with some naked damsels of heaven. At that time, the great saint Narada Muni was passing on the road and was sorry to see the behavior of the sons of Kuvera. Seeing Narada passing by, the damsels of heaven covered their bodies with cloth. But the 2 sons, being drunkards, did not have this decency. Narada became angry with their behavior and cursed them thus: You have no sense, so it is better if you become trees instead of the sons of Kuvera. Upon hearing this, the boys came to their senses and begged Narada to be pardoned for their offenses. Narada then said, Yes, you shall become trees, Arjuna trees, and you still will stand in the courtyard of Nand Maharaj. But Krishna himself will appear in time as the foster son of Nanda, and he will deliver you. In other words, the curse of Narada was a benediction to the sons of Kuvera, because indirectly it was foretold that they would be able to receive the favor of Lord Krishna. After that, Kuvera's 2 sons stood as 2 big Arjuna trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj until Lord Damodara, in order to fulfill the desire of Narada, dragged the grinding mortar to which he was tied and struck the 2 trees, violently causing them to fall down. From out of these fallen trees came Nalakuvara and Manigriva, who had by then become great devotees of the Lord. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Krishna. Next paragraph. There is a passage in the higher Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu that states, My dear Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I do not want any resultant benediction from my religious life, nor do I want any economic development, nor do I want to enjoy sense gratification, nor liberation. I simply pray to be an eternal servant at your lotus feet. Kindly oblige me and give me this benediction. Next paragraph. Someone would like to read? Munish Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hmm.
In the same Hayasira Panchtantra, after Narsimha, they wanted to give benedictions to the Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad did not accept any material benedictions and simply asked the favor of the Lord to remain his internal devotee. In this connection, Prahlad Maharaj cited the example of Hanuman, the internal servitor of Lord Ramchandra, who also set an example by never asking any material favor from the Lord. He always remained engaged in the Lord's service. That is the ideal character of Hanuman, for which he is still worshipped by all devotees. Prahlad Maharaj also offered his respectful obeisances unto Hanuman. There is a well-known verse spoken by Hanuman in which he says, My dear Lord, if you like, you can give me salvation from this material existence or the privilege of merging into your existence. But I do not wish any of these things. I do not want anything that diminishes my relationship with you as servant to master, even after liberation. Hare Krishna.
Hmm. In a similar passage in the Narad Pancharatra, it is stated, My dear Lord, I do not wish any perfectional stage by performing the ritualistic religious ceremonies or by economic development or by sense gratification or liberation. I simply pray that you grant me the favor of keeping me under your lotus feet. I do not wish any kind of liberation such as Salukya to reside on your planet or Sarupya to have the same bodily features as you. I simply pray for your favor that I may be always engaged in your loving service. Similarly, in the sixth canto, 14th chapter, verse 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parikshit inquires from Shukdev Goswami, My dear Brahmana, I understand that the demon Vritrasura was a greatly sinful person, and that his mentality was completely absorbed in the modes of passion and ignorance. How did he develop to such a perfectional stage of devotional service to Narayana? I have heard that even great persons who have undergone severe austerities and who are liberated with full knowledge must strive to become devotees of the Lord. It is understood that such persons are very rare and almost never to be seen. So I am astonished that Vitrasura became such a devotee. Sarita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams. In the above verse, the most important thing to be noted is that there may be many liberated persons who have merged into the existence of the impersonal Brahman. But a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, is very, very rare. Even out of millions of liberated persons, only one is fortunate enough to become a devotee. In Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 8th chapter, verse 20, Queen Kunti is praying to Lord Krishna at the time of his departure. My dear Krishna, you are so great that you are inconceivable even to great stalwart scholars and Paramahamsas, fully liberated souls. So, if such great sages who are transcendental to all the reactions of material existence are unable to know you, then as far as we are concerned, belonging to the less intelligent woman class, how is it possible for us to know your glories? How can we understand you? In this verse, Prabhuji, can I scroll up, Prabhuji? In this verse, the particular thing to be noted is that the personality of Godhead is not understood by great liberated persons, but only by devotees such as Queen Kunti in her humbleness, although she was a woman and was considered less intelligent than a man. Still, she realized the glories of Krishna. That is the purport of this verse. Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
Yeah, you can.
Another passage that is very important is in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 7th chapter, verse 10, and is called the Atmarama verse. In this Atmarama verse, it is stated that even those who are completely liberated from material contamination are attracted by the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna. The purport of this verse is that a liberated soul has absolutely no desire at all for material enjoyment. He is wholly freed from all kinds of material desires, yet still he is irresistibly attracted by the desire to hear and understood the pastimes of the Lord. We may therefore conclude that the glories and pastimes of the Lord are not material. Otherwise, how could the liberated persons known as Atmaramas be attracted by such pastimes? That is the important point in this verse. This Atmarama verse was once nicely explained by Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami. Scroll up, Prabhuji.
If someone else can read, yes. Mukta Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam to you. Prabhuji, okay. Are you able to hear me now clearly?
Yes, yes, yes.
From the above statement, it is found that a devotee is not after any of the stage of liberation. There are 5 stages of liberation, already explained as being number 1, to become one with the Lord, number 2, to live on the same planet as the Lord, number 3, to obtain the same bodily features as the Lord, number 4, to have the same opulences as the Lord, and number 5, to have constant association with the Lord. Out of these 5 liberated stages, the one which is known as Sujya or to merge in
Sayujya.
Sayujya or to merge into the existence of the Lord is the last to be accepted by a devotee. The other 4 liberations, although not desired by the devotee, are still not against the devotional ideals. Some of the liberated person who have achieved these 4 stages of liberation may also develop affection for Krishna and be promoted to the Prabhuji, can you please scroll a little bit? To the Golok Vrindavan planet in the spiritual sky. In other words, those who are already promoted to the Vaikuntha planets and who possess the 4 kinds of liberation may also sometime develop affections for Krishna and become promoted to Krishna Loka. So those who are in the 4 liberated stages may still be going through different stages of existence. In the beginning, they may want the opulence of Krishna, but at the mature stage, the dormant love for Krishna exhibited in Vrindavan becomes prominent in their hearts. As such, the pure devotees never accept the liberation. Prabhuji, please scroll a little bit. Liberation of Sayujya, to become one with the Supreme, though sometime they may accept as favorable the other 4 liberated stages. Out of many kinds of devotees of the Lord, out of many kinds of devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the one who is attracted to the original form of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan is considered to be the foremost first-class devotee. Such a devotee is never attracted by the opulence of Vaikuntha or even of Dwarka, the royal city where Krishna ruled. The conclusion of Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī is that the devotee who are attracted by the pastimes of the Lord in Gokul or Vrindavan are the topmost devotees.
Thank you, Mataji. Someone else can read. Vrindavan is the transcendental place where Krishna enjoys his eternal pastimes as a boy, and it is considered the topmost sphere in all existence. When this Vrindavan is exhibited in the material world, the place is called Gokula. And in the spiritual world, it is called Goloka or Goloka Vrindavan. A devotee is attached to a particular form of the Lord, does not wish to redirect his devotion to other forms. For example, Hanuman, the devotee of Lord Ramachandra, knew that there is no difference between Lord Ramachandra and Lord Narayana, and yet he still wanted to render service only unto Lord Ramachandra. That is due to the specific attraction of a particular devotee. There are many forms of the Lord, many forms of the Lord, but Krishna is still the original form. Though all of the devotees of the different forms of the Lord are in the same category, still it is said that those who are devotees of Lord Krishna are the topmost in the list of all devotees. Okay, so chapter 4 is over. Now chapter 5, the purity of devotional service. The purity of devotional service means that a devotional service is not dependent on any of the factors. A person may be born in any kind of family. A person may be not so pure in his lifestyle, habits, culture, etc. A person may not be following Varnashram very correctly, but still devotional service may arise in the heart of or awaken in the heart of such a person. So, to prove that devotional service is independent, Swatantra, in this chapter, Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī gives evidences that devotional service does not depend on any of these factors. The progress of devotional service does not depend on this. So, in the month of April, I am planning to start a course on Madhuri Kadambini. So, where we'll study in more detail these subject matters. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has written a small book describing these different stages of bhakti in detail there. So let's read this chapter. Yes, Manish Prabhu. You there, Manish Prabhu?
Prabhuji, I was on mute, Prabhuji.
Mhm.
Chapter 5, the purity of devotional service. All the previous instructions impaired by Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī in his bold statements can be summarized thus. As long as one is materially inclined or desires of merging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. Next, Rūpa Gosvāmī states that devotional service is transcendental to all material considerations and that it is not limited to any particular country, class, society, or circumstances. As stated in the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, devotional service is transcendental and has no cause. Devotional service is executed without any hope for gain and it cannot be checked by any material circumstances. It is open to all without any distinction and it is constitutional occupation of the living entities. Hare Krishna. Should I continue, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
In the Middle Ages, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associate, Lord Nityananda, a class of priestly persons claimed to be descendants of Nityananda, calling themselves the Goswami's caste. They further claimed that practice and spreading of devotional service belonged only to their particular class, which was known as Nityananda's Vamshas. In this way, they executed their artificial power for some time until Śrīla Bhakti-siddhanta Thakur, the powerful Acharya of Gaudiya Vishwa Sampradaya, completely smashed their ideas. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it was turned into successfully, and it is now correctly and particularly established that devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already at the status of being high class Brahmana. So Śrīla Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's struggle for this movement has come out successful. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur very strongly fought for this cause. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta were present on the planet, our sampradaya faced a lot of challenges, which they could overcome, and because of that, Gaudiya Vaishnavism got a very strong foothold in the society. Otherwise, the good name of Gaudiya Vaishnavism was at stake during that period. That's why, people may wonder sometimes that though Bhaktisiddhanta was such a powerful preacher and Bhaktivinoda Thakur was such an erudite scholar and preacher, they were not able to bring masses to Krishna consciousness the way Srila Prabhupada could bring. How is it so? So the main reason was because their primary focus was at that time to save the good name of Gaudiya Vaishnavism and to dispel out all the nonsense that was going on in the name of Vaishnavism or Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So they fought for that. And one such cause was this, that people in those days were claiming only if you are born in a particular family, in a particular caste, in a particular lineage, then you can be a Vaishnava. Otherwise, you cannot be. So they fought for it. No, it's a right for everyone. Everyone should be allowed to practice Krishna consciousness. So it was like there were people who were fighting for the cause of independence of India from the British rule, and they were fighting for the cause of independence of Vaishnavism from the so-called, followers of the Lord Chaitanya Nityananda, who claim that Vaishnavism is only their birthright. So they fought for that cause, and their whole life went in that. Once they got that freedom for Vaishnavism, then Prabhupada spread Vaishnavism all across the globe. So if you study the contributions of all these Vaishnava acharyas, they were perfectly sent by Krishna to execute a plan, a master plan. They came one after another to execute a master plan. So Bhaktivinoda came, after Bhaktivinoda, Bhaktisiddhanta came, after Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Prabhupada came. So they were like planted by Krishna, as staged by Krishna, that you have this job to do, you have this job to do, you have this job to do. And then they did it. So this is how we understand. So this was very, very great contribution of Bhaktisiddhanta. Next paragraph. Yeah, it is on the basis of his position. Jagataya Vishakha.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī specifically mentions here in that every man has the birthright to accept devotional service and to become Krishna conscious. He has given many evidences from many scriptures, and he has especially quoted one passage from Padma Purana, wherein the sage Vasishtha tells King Dilipa, "My dear king, everyone has the right to execute devotional service, just as he has the right to take early birth in the month of Magha, December, January." There is more evidence in the Skanda Purana, in the Kasi Kanda portion, where it is said, in the country known as Mayuradvaja, the lower caste people who are considered less than Shudras are also initiated in the Vaishnava cult of devotional service. And when they are properly dressed with tilaka on their bodies and beads in their hands and on their necks, they appear to be coming from Vaikunta. In fact, they look so very beautiful that immediately they surpass the ordinary Brahmanas.
Thank
Shall I
you.
continue?
We missed the previous paragraph. Anyway, Jagataya Mataji, please read this also. It is on the basis of his position.
Okay, Prabhu. It is on the basis of his position that anyone can now become a Gaudiya Vaishnava from any part of the world or any part of the universe. Anyone who is a pure Vaishnava is situated transcendentally, and therefore the highest qualification in the material world, namely to be in the mode of goodness, has already been achieved by such a person. Our Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world is based on the above mentioned proposition of Śrīla Bhakti-sastri Gosvāmī Prabhupada, our spiritual master. On his authority, we are claiming members from all sections of the Western countries. The so-called Brahmanas claim that one who is not born into a Brahmana family cannot receive the sacred thread and cannot become a high-grade Vaishnava. But we do not accept such a theory because it is not supported by Rūpa Gosvāmī nor by the strength of the various scriptures.
Thank you. Next paragraph. Sudhir Prabhu.
Thus the Vaishnava automatically becomes a Brahmana. This idea is also supported by Sanatana Goswami in his book Hari Bhakti Vilasa, which is the Vaishnava guide. Therein, he has clearly stated that any person who is properly initiated into the Vaishnava cult certainly becomes a Brahmana as much as the metal known as kamsa, bell metal, is turned into gold by the mixture of mercury. A bona fide spiritual master, under the guidance of authorities, can turn anyone to the Vaishnava cult so that naturally he may come to the topmost position of a Brahmana.
Yes. We read the next also.
Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī warns, however, that if a person is properly initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, he should not think that simply by the acceptance of such initiation, his business is then finished. One still has to follow the rules and regulations very carefully. If after accepting the spiritual master and being initiated, one does not follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, then he is again fallen. One must be very vigilant to remember that he is the part and parcel of the transcendental body of Krishna, and that it is his duty as part and parcel to give the service to the whole or Krishna. If we do not render service to Krishna, then we fall down. In other words, simply becoming initiated does not elevate one to the position of a high-class Brahmana. One also has to discharge the duties and follow the regulative principles very rigidly. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes. Next paragraph. Achita Prayashima.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī also says that if one is regularly discharging devotional service, there will be no question of a fall down. But even if circumstantially there is some fall down, the Vaishnava need have nothing to do with the Prayaśchitta, the ritualistic ceremony for purification. If someone falls down from the principles of devotional service, he need not take to the Prayaśchitta performances for reformation. He simply has to execute the rules and regulations for discharging devotional service, and this is sufficient for his reinstatement. This is the mystery of the Vaishnava devotional cult. Practically, there are three processes for elevating one to the platform of spiritual consciousness. These processes are called karma, jnana, and bhakti. Ritualistic performances are in the field of karma. Speculative processes are in the field of jnana. One who has taken to bhakti, the devotional service of the Lord, need not have nothing to do with karma or jnana. It has been already explained that pure devotional service is without any tinge of karma or jnana. Bhakti should have no tinge of philosophical speculation or ritualistic performances.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
In this connection, Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī gives evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 21st chapter, verse 2, in which Lord Krishna says to Uddhava, the distinction between qualification and disqualification may be made in this way. Persons who are already elevated in discharging devotional service will never again take shelter of the process of fruitive activity or philosophical speculation. If one sticks to devotional service and is conducted by regulative principles given by the authorities and acharyas, that is the best qualification. Next paragraph. Yes. Victor Prabhu.
This statement is supported in Śrīmad Bhagavatam, verse canto, 5th chapter, verse 17, wherein Sri Narad Muni advises Vyasadeva thus: Even if one does not execute his specific occupational duty, but immediately takes direct shelter of the lotus feet of Hari, Krishna, there will be no fault on his part, and in all circumstances his position is secure. Even if by some bad association he falls down while executing devotional service, or if he doesn't finish the complete course of devotional service and dies untimely, still he is not at loss. A person who is simply discharging his occupational duty in Varna and Ashrama, however, with no Krishna consciousness, practically does not gain the true benefit of human life. The purport is that all conditioned souls who are engaged very frantically in activities for sense gratification, without knowing that this process will never help them get out of material contamination, are rewarded only with repeated births and deaths. Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
Hmm.
In the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated by Rishabdev to his sons, persons engaged in fruitive activities are repeatedly accepting birth and death, and until they develop a loving feeling for Vasudeva, there will be no question of getting out from these stringent laws of material nature. As such, any person who is very seriously engaged in his occupational duties in the Varnas and Ashramas, and who does not develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, should be understood to be simply spoiling his human form of life. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Dayalu Govind.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. This is confirmed also in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th chapter, verse 32, in which the Lord says to Uddhava, "My dear Uddhava, any person who takes shelter of me is in complete surrender and follows my instructions, giving up all occupational duties, is to be considered the first-class man." In this statement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is understood that people who are generally attracted to philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruistic, political, and social welfare activities may be considered nice men only in the calculation of the material world. From Srimad Bhagavatam and other authentic Vedic scriptures, we learn further that if a person simply acts in Krishna consciousness and discharges devotional service, he is considered to be far, far better situated than all those persons engaged in philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruistic, and social welfare activities. So, should I continue?
Yes.
The same thing is still more emphatically confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 5th chapter, verse 41, in which Karbhajan Muni addresses Maharaj Nimi as follows: "My dear king, if someone gives up his occupational duties as they are prescribed for the different varnas and ashramas, but takes complete shelter, surrendering himself unto the lotus feet of the Lord, such a person is no more a debtor, nor has he any obligation to perform the different kinds of activities we render to the great sages and sisters, living entities, and family and society members. Nor has he any need to bother executing the 5 kind of yajnas, sacrifices, for becoming free from sinful contamination. Simply by discharging devotional service, he is freed from all kinds of obligations. The purport is that as soon as a man takes his birth, he is immediately indebted to so many sources. He is indebted to the great sages because he profits by reading their authoritative scriptures and books. For example, we take advantage of the books written by Vyasdev. Vyasdev has left for us all the Vedas. Before Vyasdev's writing, the Vedic literature was simply heard, and the disciples would learn the mantras quickly by hearing and not by reading. Later on, Vyasdev thought it wise to write down the Vedas. Because in this age, people are short memory and unable to remember all the instructions given by the spiritual master. Therefore, he left all the Vedas in the form of books such as the Puranas, Vedanta, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes. Madhumat Matasha.
Hare Krishna. There are many other sages like Sankaracharya, Gautama Muni, Narad Muni, to whom we are indebted because we take advantage of their knowledge. Similarly, we are obliged to our forefathers because we take our birth in a particular family where we take all advantages and inherit property. Therefore, we are indebted to the forefathers and have to offer them pinda, prashada, after they are dead. Similarly, to the people in general, we are also indebted, as well as to our relatives, friends, and even animals such as cow and dogs who render us so much service. Should I read?
Yes.
In this way, we are indebted to the demigods, to the forefathers, to the sages, to the animals, and to society in general. It is our duty to repay them all by proper discharge of service, but by the one stroke of devotional service, if someone gives up all obligations and simply surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is no longer a debtor nor obliged to any other source of benefit. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Next, Mukta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In Bhagavad Gita, also the Lord says, give up all your occupations and just become surrendered unto me. I give you assurance that I shall give you protection from all sinful reactions. One may think that because he is surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he will not be able to perform all of his other obligations. But the Lord says repeatedly, don't hesitate, don't consider that because you are giving up all other engagements, there will be some flaw in your life. Don't think like that. I will give you all protection. This is the assurance of the Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. There is additional evidence in the Agastya Samhita, as the regulative principles of scriptures are not required by a liberated person, so the ritualistic principles indicated in the Vedic supplements are also not required for a person duly engaged in the service of Lord Ramchandra. In other words, the devotees of Lord Ramchandra or Krishna are already liberated persons and are not required to follow all the regulative principles mentioned in the ritualistic portions of the Vedic literature. Prabhu, shall I continue?
Yeah, let's see, someone else is there to read. Manish Prabhuji, you can.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Similarly, in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, verse 42, Kadambajana Muni addresses King Nimi and says, my dear king, a person who has given up worship of demigods and has completely concentrated his energy in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has become very, very dear to the Lord. As such, if by chance or mistake he does something that is forbidden, there is no need for him to perform any purificatory ceremonies. Because the Lord is situated within his heart, he takes compassion for the devotee's accidental mistake and corrects him from within. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita in many places that Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna takes a special interest in his devotees and declares emphatically that nothing can cause his devotees to fall down. He's always protecting them. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay, so any questions or comments? No?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, may you tell us about that? April, you're starting something. So
Yes,
when
yeah, you'll get the message about it in the group message. Don't worry.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah. So, dear Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranams. Prabhuji, two questions, Prabhu. In the last chapter, chapter 4, the pastime of Nalakuvera and Manikriva were given. So
Yes.
even though they did abominable activity, but still it was like a blessing in disguise. So there has to be some reason behind their getting the mercy of Krishna. So what is that the Acharyas explain? Even after performing an abominable activity, they got this blessing in disguise.
Well, there's nothing explained specifically for this case, but what is understood is that Bhakti is independent. That's what we'll study in Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu. We are studying, and also we study in Manjari Kadamini, that the pure devotees of Krishna, as Krishna himself, are free to award the opportunity of devotional service to anyone like that. It's causeless. It's not because of some partiality, but it's the nature of it is that it is causeless. And it may be because of some bhakti that they have done in the past. So it's there. So as such, I have not read any specific past instance where there's a connection because they did this in the past. They came to meet Narada and Narada blessed them. You're getting it? But there has to be something in the past. Without that, it's not possible.
Yes. Prabhu, and the second question is in the same chapter, one of the points that repeatedly came was that a devotee, he always wants to remember and glorify the Lord irrespective of where he is. So now a devotee, a true devotee of the Lord, always aspires for hearing and glorification of the Lord wherever he is. That's the point which at least repeatedly came in chapter 4 by the examples of Lord Hanuman and few other examples. So now we see like at least different classes of devotees wherein like Lord Hanuman is this category, whereas we are also at the same time told that we should aspire to go to Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan. So this is like another impetus that we should be having. So, like, is this okay, Prabhu, aspiring to go to Vaikuntha when in connection with whatever we are reading in chapter 4?
Yeah, it's okay, no problem. In the beginning, at our stage, we need to keep that aspiration to inspire us or motivate us. Otherwise, we will never want to go back to God because we are not so pure in our desire yet. Right? So we need to keep that kind of aspiration. Later on, when we become purified, then it's okay. We'll get rid of that aspiration also. But at our stage, we need to have some aspiration. If it's not something of this world, at least it should be something out of this world.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Thank you.
Any other question? Though I keep on hearing many glories of devotional service, but still there is weak determination to connect my life in that way. Can you help me to improve my determination? Yes, we lack determination because we lack association. We should pray for good association, strong association of devotees. In that kind of association, we will be very determined then to practice Krishna consciousness. So we lack good association. Because of that, we also lack determination. So we should pray for such association. And once we get that kind of association, determination will also be there. Fine.
So Prabhuji, we should continue pray in our regular prayers that we need good association of pure devotees so that we can continue our journey in a nice way.
Yeah. That should be there always. We should always pray for sadhu sanghas, good sadhu sangha.
Right, Prabhuji.
Thank you. They are going to.
Hi Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, this is regarding the story that is given actually about after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, that there was a group of people claiming to be Lord Nityananda's descendants. So I just wanted to understand, Prabhuji, so when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu themselves were there, and they were actually preaching that message that devotional service is not exclusive to a certain class of people, then how come just the next generation? So we had Krishnadas Kaviraj Gosvāmī and all the acharyas also that time, but even then, how come there was a deviation from that to make a group of people saying that they are the only exclusive members?
That's always possible. You see, deviation can happen even in front of the Supreme Lord. But even if the Lord is present, this is possible. And this only adds to the beauty of our philosophy, that our philosophy, our understanding is Krishna will never interfere with someone's free will. Even if you are with Krishna, you have a chance to exercise your free will. Nothing will be imposed upon you. If you like, you can cooperate with him. If you don't like, you can just go against him. So Krishna, when he comes, he also wants to tell us that he is not a dictator or an autocrat, that when he's present, then everyone has to just obey him. Even in his presence, people can disobey him or go against his wishes. There can be deviations. So that's why even though Mahaprabhu was present, Nityananda Prabhu was present, they were preaching, they were teaching, they were doing all those things. There were people who did not really accept them or offended them, right? Or deviated from their teachings. So such possibilities are always there.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, the lineage of Nityananda Prabhu, that part is not true, right? Because we have never heard about any direct descendants of Nityananda Prabhu.
No, they are. Lord Nityananda did have a lineage. Nityananda did have a lineage. But then it's just like Advaita Acharya has a lineage. But then we don't believe that only they are the bona fide followers.
Got it. Thank you.
Mukta
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is not related to the today's class. Prabhuji, can I ask the question?
Yes.
Prabhuji, nowadays there is one name is very popular, like Premanand Maharaj from Vrindavan. You might heard that. Prabhuji, they are sometimes saying in their lectures, like people when coming to them and they are like saying they are like devotee of Lord Hanuman or Lord Shiva. They are also emphasizing on like too much on Nam, like Radha Nam. So sometimes I heard that they are saying any name is good, like any name of the God is good. You can like devote, like do worship any god like Lord Shiva or Hanumanji. So Prabhuji, how we can like see these things, like because in Krishna consciousness in the iskcon we are hearing that we know that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and we should only worship the Lord Krishna. So how we can see this thing in
Why we have to see? I mean, that is a different path, and we don't follow that path. So why we have to think much about what he's teaching and whether it is right or wrong?
Prabhuji,
It's
I know
any,
that.
it's anyway not our path.
But Prabhuji, I know that that is a totally different path, Prabhuji. But my question is that, like, how can like we still, because sometimes we are hearing these kind of things, and then the question come into our mind that what is correct, like how we can. I know they are also like correct in their own way, but how we can see, like we can relate this, like.
Why you think they are correct in their own way? Who said that they are correct in their own way?
So Prabhuji,
Fine, they might be teaching something, but is it really correct? Is it really matching the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Prabhuji, what you think, like how you can like guide us in
Why
that?
we have to spend time thinking about what someone else is teaching? Our path is bona fide. We are following our path. This path will give us success. So let's spend time thinking and understanding about our path, regardless of whether someone else is becoming popular or not. Forget about it.
So
Now,
it
if you
means that.
really want to know the truth, the Radha Vallabha Sampradaya is a Sampradaya which was removed from Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Premanand Maharaj, he belongs to a path known as Radha Vallabha Sampradaya. And that Sampradaya was something that was removed from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's line because it became a deviant Sampradaya.
Okay, Prabhuji.
So now something was removed from our line. So now why we have to understand whether it's right or wrong? So because they were removed from our line, they have some teachings which are similar to our teachings, but not all the teachings are same.
Yes, Prabhuji, that sometime even I know that some of
Then,
like.
so I spend time in trying to understand. It's not of much benefit.
Okay, Prabhuji.